Good morning. My name is Melinda Apgar. I am currently the clerk for the Lancaster Board of Health, serving in as the chair for Jeff Pastor as he's out today. We have also Jim Gareffi, who is our Neshoba Associated Board of Health agent. Sheila Millette, a member of the Lancaster Board of Health. Samantha Zedeker, the assistant to the Department of Health and Human Services. We have Kate Hodges, our town administrator. And I don't see anybody else on the line. Unless I'm missing anyone. I'd like to welcome everybody, remind everybody that the meeting is recorded. Everybody's full name is available. So I'm just going to ask if there are any specific issues that anybody wants to address that are on the agenda, that we wait till we get to that agenda item. And if it's not on the agenda, that we add it to the additional business that was unanticipated for the agenda at that time. And I'll start with the agenda. Jim, would you like to start with 27 Russell Lane with a trailer update, please?
So I talked to Bill this morning. He thought there was a letter that was going to be sent to the folks who had the trailer there, and we wanted to make sure that that letter had been sent. If not, he suggested, or if it has been and the trailer's still there, he suggested sending a letter that you've sent to other folks when they haven't removed the trailers. So I guess he mentioned maybe Sam, you knew of whether a letter had been sent to that homeowner.
Yep, so I can update that. The trailer has been moved as of 10:10, I believe, 10:09 or 10:10. It is no longer there. We sent a letter the previous week giving them 10 days to remove it, and it is now gone.
Okay.
So we can remove that from the agenda then? Perfect. Okay, then moving on to 132 Kilbourne Road. Jim, we have a temporary housing status there.
So my understanding is that, so kind of the larger issue, I guess I got invited to a meeting to discuss, I guess, ongoing issues and an issue that was a little more imminent in that they, I guess, EMS and fire got a complaint about possible carbon monoxide poisoning in the main house. So my understanding is the trailer's not there anymore, but when they went in to investigate the occupants' concerns about carbon monoxide, police, EMS, and fire noted some housing concerns. We met with town council. They asked that I draft a letter asking the owner, outlining the issues that were noted when police, fire, and EMS were in the house. There's some pictures also. And to ask for a full inspection of the house with the police, fire, building, and board of health. So that letter went out. I drafted it. Town council put it on stationery for us, signed it. I spoke to the homeowner. He declined the offer of us coming in to do a housing inspection. It should kind of back up a bit. When the day that there was the concern of the occupants of the carbon monoxide, I guess Lancaster, the Clinton Fire Department in there, and they didn't find any CO in the unit. But there were concerns with whether the house had a central heating system. It does, and according to the owner, he's had it maintained or just recently updated. But it had a pellet stove in there, which the building department couldn't find a permit for. And according to the housing code, that wouldn't be considered an acceptable method of central heating. So I had a conversation with the owner, stating that he really needs to follow up with the building department about the pellet stove. When I said to him about the furnace, getting that up and running so the house had central heating, he mentioned that local oil company didn't want to put oil in it because the tank appeared to be sweating, and I assume that maybe means that it's maybe rusting from the inside, so maybe it's not considered a safe tank to put oil in. So I mentioned to him that that was the central heating system for the house, and he really needed to have that addressed. I don't know where the board wants to go with this next. We can't go on without permission. We've essentially been declined permission to go in. That the alternative for the board, if you wanted, was to approach, get an administrative search warrant, or at least speak to the court about getting one to be able to conduct a full housing inspection. When I talked to the owner, his biggest concern was he wanted to be able to fix the violations as he was financially able to do so. There's some, the heating system is a pretty significant one to me. The lack of a central heating system if the oil tank isn't filled, and the use of the pellet stove that's not permitted. I think they also mentioned when they were in there, they didn't note any smokes or CO detectors. So again, your next step, based on his refusal to allow us in, would be to approach the court for an administrative search warrant.
Okay. So, Jim, forgive me, is that something that we would want to discuss and vote on now, or we would want to discuss voting on approaching the select board for
So I could, on
administrative
behalf of the
search warrant,
board,
if that's something that we feel we would want to pursue?
so I could certainly, I guess you want to think about the process. So I could certainly probably go to the court. I mean, typically with the way this works is we go to like the local police department. They have the ability to help us, or print the paperwork that I can then take to the court to request it. And I have the photos from the police and fire, and kind of the letter we sent, and see if we can get an administrative search warrant. Then I would do the inspection, and we'd issue a housing order. So right now, the letter sent on behalf of the board that town council kind of finished up for me was essentially these things were noted. These things are violations. I didn't actually see them, so I can't really. It wasn't really an order, and so at the end of that letter was we'd like to do a full inspection. If we do the full inspection, there'll be an order with timelines, and then if they don't do the work that's required in the order, then it's a matter of whether the board wants to take them to court or not. So that's kind of the process as it is. So it's, how far into this do you want to go? That is a legal process that's open to you. So, and again, my concerns with the heating system, both the current central heating system doesn't seem to have a fuel source because the tank can't be filled according to the owner. And the pellet stove isn't considered a legal heating source, and it's not been permitted to install.
Okay. I have Kate Hodges has her hand raised right now, but before I allow Kate to speak, I saw that somebody joined in, and Elias Fairclass. Can you please, if I'm saying that correctly, could you please let us know if you're here as just an interested party, or if you're here for a specific agenda item?
Not for a specific agenda item. I came last month hoping something would happen, and I was hoping to show some pictures to you guys from the last month.
For which agenda item?
It's not on the agenda.
So it would be additional business?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elias.
Thank you.
Okay, Kate?
Thank you. Kate Hodges, Town Administrator. When we're talking about the house that Jim was just speaking about, the town's concern, independent of that Board of Health issues, is that it appears that it was being run as an illegal boarding house, and there were many persons that were living there and paying some degree of rent. And so that was the impetus for the town getting involved, because we had a person who was claiming to be a tenant called the Health and Human Services Department to file a complaint about the living situation. and then said, they were sick and they had to go to the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what ended up happening. And so in the midst of investigating that, I asked the public safety commissioner to meet myself, the director of health and human services, and a detective at the location. So just because I think that that's an important piece the board needs to measure. Apparently, when we served the latest notice, when the constable served that, he was told that there were a number of persons that had left, but that there were still some people that were staying. The claim is that they're not paying them rent, but they give the homeowner donations. Notwithstanding that it's an exchange of, money to be able to live there, regardless of what he calls it. There's a certain standard that needs to be there. So the issue is not just simply that there's one homeowner at risk here, but that there's some undisclosed number that could be as many as 6 that we saw, or as obviously as low as 1 or 2. And we don't know. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Jim, do you have any suggestions or response to Kate's information?
Again, given that it's kind of the board's been dealing with first a trailer there, and then I think some of the people in the trailer maybe moved into the house, and then the complaints about living in the house. It seems a reasonable step for the board to at least request the administrative search warrant.
So
Melinda, I
then-
think I'd like to make a
Gotcha.
motion. I would like to make a motion for a request of Neshoba Associated Boards to write a letter and approach the court for an administrative search warrant for 132 Kilbourne.
I second the motion. All in favor? Sheila?
Aye.
Melinda Apgar? Aye.
Okay. I'll catch up with the police department, see if at least that's the last time I did it. They actually have the software that you can plug in and put together the paperwork for the court. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate
Yep.
that.
Thank you, Jim.
no problem.
So then moving right along to item number C, 679 George Hill Road. We've got an irrigation well permit request there, which was approved by,
Melinda, item C is 89 Narrow Lane.
oh, am I on
Letter
the
C.
wrong one? I'm sorry. 89 Narrow Lane. Thank you so much. I'm looking at my wrong paper. 89 Narrow Lane. I'm so sorry. C is 89 Narrow Lane. Jim, can you please provide an update on 89 Narrow Lane?
I guess this has started back in September. The occupant they talked to Bill about rats in the unit. And according to Bill, and when I talked to him, they were going to try to work it out with the landlord. Doesn't sound like they did. So I did a housing inspection at the property, issued an order on the board's behalf. There were significant issues with both the heating system and I would say with rodents in the dwelling. The heating system, the ductwork was kind of down in the basement. There were bait boxes in the basement, but they didn't look like they'd been used in a long time. And when I was doing the inspection of the basement, something was actually crawling in one of the ductworks. So probably a lot of validity to that rodent issue. So since then, the order was issued. I sent it to her, the owner, on the 15th. I was back there on Monday, doing a reinspection. The ducts are all reattached. The basement door is now secure. I just got an email last night. I haven't completely read it. When I was there, she said Tuesday the pest control company was going to come and service the bait boxes. So I think they've got to jump on that. They've made some improvements to the basement as far as filling in the burrow holes along the foundation. so I'm going to continue to work with her, the owner, to get those items addressed. So.
I'm sorry, Jim. And so, and she also requested a special hearing, is that correct?
That's right. I think whenever a board issues an order, in accordance with the regulations, that individual the order is issued to has a right to a hearing in front of the board. And essentially the right is to be able to discuss the order. And the purpose would be either to A, say the order should be withdrawn because it's not valid, or B, hey, I need more time to fix things. So could I have an extension of time? Or the board can, after hearing the person and hearing from the board's agent, can sustain the order and all the original timeframes remain in place. So I'm not sure on what basis she would consider contesting, if you will, or addressing the order. She has, the owner kind of prompted me a couple of times to ask her tenants not to just throw stuff away into the dumpster. My understanding of the housing code, if you have 2 or more units, the landlord has to provide rubbish removal. So it's kind of a non-issue from my perspective, and I've essentially told her that. I said that's really between her and the tenant in the building. And there was they had a floating floor or laminate floor, like that kind of wood type flooring, and it's gone in most of the housing. Now, to hear the occupant state, it's got a little wet, or they caught a corner of it and it started becoming a trip hazard, so they took it all up. To hear the landlord say that they destroyed it, they're responsible for it. I can't really determine either way. It needs to be fixed one way or the other. So, and she's the one who needs to fix it, whether she wants to go after the tenant. Like I said, I couldn't tell by my inspection who did what to the floor. I could just tell you that the floor wasn't in place.
And from what we know, the tenant is in the process of moving out, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
And that doesn't negate the fact that because it's in the order that these issues still need to be addressed, whether or not there's a tenant there or not.
That's right. So once the order is issued, before she reoccupies it, and that's written in the order, she needs to correct the violations, have it re-inspected before she can reoccupy the unit.
Okay. Does anybody, Sheila, do you have any questions or concerns that you want to?
I do. So the landlord's hearing request. I know that there was a date given to her that she was unable to make. Would we be able to reschedule that sooner than later? Just from reading the report and the tenant, I guess, not being able to live there while maybe these repairs are being done, that we should kind of move that along a little more quickly.
We've offered 2 dates to her at this point, and she's been busy for both of those.
Samantha, could you say that again? Sorry.
We've offered her 2 dates for a hearing, and she said she's refused both because she's busy.
So I guess my question then would be to Jim then. I mean, we all have our time schedules, and I do believe that this really became more of an emergency situation for the tenant, and that I believe that the landlord should be seeing this as a serious issue on her property. So I'm kind of wondering if the next time she can't make a hearing, then what happens? I mean, I know you said you're working with her to make sure the repairs are going along and the timeline is being kept.
So the board, the way that section of the regulations is written is the board, provides an appointment for the occupant to come, or the person requesting the order. My thought is, if you were to set up an appointment for the next meeting and she didn't show up, you have met your statutory requirement to provide her with the opportunity to speak on behalf of that order she was issued.
Okay.
And again, just so kind of clarify, I I explained to her that the pest control and the ductwork were a 24-hour violation. Those are pretty much corrected at this point. So the basement's tight. Again, I didn't read the correspondence she sent me last night because she was supposed to have pest control setting the bait boxes, and the ductwork has been replaced. It's all secured again. So that kind of emergency piece, I believe, has been addressed. Now there's some cleaning in the occupants unit. There's a lot of material in the unit. It's hard to know when somebody's in the process of moving what's what, but there was a lot of droppings throughout the unit, and there was a water leak in one of the bedrooms that has been fixed. Now it just the ceiling and the joists need to be remediated just to kind of clean them up. So, but it doesn't actively smell like mold in there now, and it's not wet any longer. So, again, so far the landlord's been doing the things that we've asked.
Okay.
But
Sheila, did you have something further?
I probably do. It's just there's a lot of issues I find here.
Yeah.
So
there was a lot of issues in that unit. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing. I'm curious that if this maybe is a building inspector thing or if it's a Board of Health issue, but if the rest of the property is in good shape and meets the sanitary code.
So we do the inspections on the unit that we're requested to go into. So
Sure.
we haven't been requested to go into any other unit. And the fire department's been down there to check the smokes, and because that was one of the concerns on my note is there were smoke detectors in there, but I'm never quite sure where they need to be placed. And I believe a letter from the fire department saying they're where they need to be.
Okay.
Kate?
Thank you. So we, meaning the town and human services, did not hear that the tenant was moving. I believe she was looking to move, but she has children in the school system.
Oh.
And without going into too much detail, that was going to be rather disruptive to their schooling. And there's also a state agency that's involved. So according to the tenant, she was actively looking for quite a long time because she had brought these matters up to the landlord and, not received any restitution for it. But then again, so I don't know when the last time she talked to somebody, because now it's been, I don't know, I want to say 4 days since we talked to her. So perhaps she's just decided this is it, or she found something that's conducive to what she needs. But the last time that we talked from a human services standpoint, and right now Kelly is on vacation, or she would be giving you this information. She could not find something that was keeping with the ed plan for her children. So I don't know.
I guess my question then too, Jeff, is the tenant allowed in the unit
Yes.
in its condition?
Yes. I mean, one of the things you would need to do is, unfortunately, so to my view in the basement, the rodent issue has been addressed. Whether it'll stay addressed, again, the basement door is tight. The occupant said that the basement door couldn't close. It now closes and locks. So the rodents aren't getting in there. The burrow holes that were along the foundation on the inside all been patched up. The heating ductwork has been put back together. I asked her to have it cleaned. Again, I need to take a look at the invoices she sent me just last night. So probably the next biggest thing would be, because there were rodents up, it's certainly evidence of rodents up in the unit. There seems to be lots of materials in the rooms. And so from the occupant's perspective, they probably need to remove all the clothing. Like if you go into the closets, there's lots of clothing on the floor. There's droppings in the clothing on the floor. So it can't really cite. I mean, I've cited the rodents and get that part fixed. She needs now probably to get all that stuff laundered get the inside vacked up so that those evidence are gone.
Was there any mold testing done?
So the state mold is always an interesting thing. We at the health department address mold by way of water, whether it's a leak, whether it's damp basement. There's no real standards for mold, so we don't use mold testing as a mechanism to determine whether there's an issue in the unit. We look for the moisture that's causing the mold. Often people want to present that to us. Often they want to say I have black mold, and yes, but what we're concerned about is getting the moisture. So my understanding looking at the ceiling was the rodents may have gotten into the floor, the ceiling above her, and chewed on one of the water supply lines up above, and that's what caused the water damage. So those lines have been fixed. You can see through the ceiling; those are fixed.
Okay. I guess my last question is in Lancaster, actually, maybe this may be a question also for the town administrator. If there is a certificate of occupancy issued after these repairs are made, or if there's ever been a certificate of occupancy for this unit.
Yeah,
So,
so,
oh,
sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was just going to say, from the Board of Health perspective, once the landlord has made the corrections, we'll issue a letter stating that the violations noted in the order were corrected. So that's what we'll do at the Board of Health for this specific situation.
Yeah, the process that you outlined for COs is generally speaking for either major renovations, structural changes, or new construction. So we had the building commissioner in on the initial conversation that we were having about this situation. He went down and did a cursory look from the exterior. They do have an active permit. It is zoned appropriately for what's happening there. So it really is a Board of Health issue and not a zoning enforcement issue.
Yeah, I wasn't actually asking as a zoning issue. I happen to be a landlord, and for my units, I need to have certificate of occupancy prior to a tenancy. That's something that's required in the town that my units are in, and I just didn't know if Lancaster or has something like that for landlords to at least have a checklist for themselves and make sure that their unit is in good shape for their tenants.
When they're first leasing it, yes, but there's no periodic or ongoing inspections unless there's a change in tenancy.
Correct. Okay.
So right now, what I'm going to do is proceed to stay on top of the landlord to make the necessary corrections.
And we also have to offer her the last date that we are going to offer for the special hearing that she requested.
My thought is give her that. Again, you're required to provide her with an appointment. My thought is give her your next meeting, an appointment for that next meeting. That's far enough out. You can almost understand, Tuesday to Thursday might have been tight if somebody had a schedule. Even Friday might have been tight if, people's lives are probably scheduled out. But if you're giving her a date that's 3 weeks away, and she's requesting it, one would think that's important enough for her to make time to come to that hearing and discuss what she wants to discuss.
I don't think we can push it out to the next meeting based on the requirement in the letter that you served her. I think our last date that we have the opportunity to have would be the 14th of November. Am I correct, Sam?
The code allows if the occupant, the landlord can't make it, to extend that out some. So that is an opportunity if she can't make a sooner meeting, but that's been
We'd have
as
to
opposed
vote on that, right?
Yeah, they just have to discuss that with the occupant. If the next meeting, if for some reason she couldn't make it, the board could work with her on a date past that 30 days.
Did you want to say something, Sam? Okay.
I mean, I know, we just need to, I believe that we should be following our protocol that's set, and we should not go beyond the 14th. I do feel that the landlord is making good stead with repairs and all, but I feel that as a business person, this is a serious matter, and she should be looking at it a little more seriously, probably from my perspective. And I do feel that that we should be a little more assertive with letting her realize that this is not just a property issue. It's a sanitary problem here on her property. And the thing is that I know that Jim, you've been to the property. Obviously, neither Melinda nor I have, but I still feel that that we need to follow our timeline and not go beyond the 14th.
Well,
I think that's plenty of time.
Yeah, I can certainly make a meeting if you decide to hold one in between.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to, so we don't need to vote on that because it's already stated in the letter, or do we need to vote on that, Jim?
Well, I think what you, I guess, as a board want to do is decide when that next meeting is, sometime before the 14th, and then send her a letter saying the board's having a meeting on this date. You've been given an appointment for this time. And that's that.
Is it, should we try to schedule that now while we're all here?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
Now, also, Health and Human Services would need to be involved in this meeting. Is that correct? Or is this just strictly Board of Health?
It's Board of Health. This is her request to you because of the order you sent her.
Sure. Okay.
Anybody can attend that would like to attend. It's just, yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
do Wednesday mornings typically work for you, Jim?
Yes.
Perfect. Since that's when the Board of Health, Bill's usually here. The, do we want to go, to the 30th or, November 6th? Maybe around 9:30?
Yeah, I unfortunately October 30th, I do have a meeting that morning, so that it would have to be after afternoon, I guess.
How about Wednesday, November 6th at 9:30?
I have the 6th would be fine.
Does Wednesday, November 6th work for you, Jim?
Yes.
At 9:30 a.m.?
Yes.
And that would allow her to the
Some
landlord
time.
2 weeks. I think that should be
No
sufficient.
excuse to not be able to rearrange a schedule.
Right.
Okay, great. I will send her the email with the request for the hearing date.
Well, I guess what I would say is based on your request, this is the appointment that the board has provided for you, and that we're there. It's kind of, this is what we're providing you.
You got it.
Yep.
This is the final.
Yeah. Yep.
Very good. So does anybody else have any questions or concerns about 89 Narrow Lane before we proceed to the next agenda item?
Actually, I'm sorry. Could you tell me what time did we agree on? For
9:30.
9:30. Thank you.
Keeping it in line with our normal Board of Health meeting time.
Very good.
We'll need to get an agenda out 48 hours ahead of time, correct? It's open to the public, yes?
Yep.
Okay. All right, very good. So now we're moving on to D, which is 679 George Hill Road. So, Jim, do you have, we've got irrigation well permit request. It was approved by the water department. And, are we just waiting on a permit for that now, or?
My understanding, talking to Bill, the board approved that as well, so it's a matter of just issuing a permit. So I'll get that done.
Thank you.
Perfect. I apologize. I just want to recognize that Kendra Dickinson is here. Kendra, are you here for a specific agenda item, or are you here as just a interested party, or do you have some additional business that you would like to be addressed?
Nope, I was here for 89 Narrow Lane, sorry.
Did you have your questions, and concerns addressed while we were discussing that?
Yes, well, it's actually my client who lives across the street, but I think everything you guys talked about addressed what some of their concerns were, the rodents specifically.
Okay. So you're good?
Yes, ma'am.
I apologize for not getting to you sooner. Moving on to discussion, letter E, 194 Grant Way. They had a pile of sand on small stone maybe that still needed to be removed. Jim, were you able to perform a additional site inspection to ensure that last pile was removed?
I have not been there yet. I talked to Bill. He said the fine sand has been kind of smoothed out, maybe. He also mentioned he hadn't had complaints in 6 months. So I will go by. I'll talk to the owner, go by and take a look at it.
Yeah, I think as a board, we agreed that the owner agreed he would move the pile.
Okay.
And we expect that the pile be moved. So this has been going on for a while now. And if we can confirm the pile is moved, we can take it off the agenda. But if the pile's not been moved, then we appreciate it if he would move that last pile so we can get this off of the agenda.
Sure.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
No problem.
Does anybody else have anything about 194 Grant Way?
No.
Moving on to discussion letter E, Laurel Hill Road, where there is a proposed force main. They wanted to pave the road there, but they were going to be putting sleeves on, and we were waiting for a permit from Neshoba to be signed. Has that been done? Is there an inspection that's still needed, Jim?
So I talked to Bill. Bill said he did the inspection of the sleeves and the insulation in the road, and mentioned that until they submit plans for, I guess, the additional work that's being done, I don't know if it's going to be another part of the development, that he felt that this could be taken off the agenda because it's kind of at where it needs to be at until the property owners take additional actions, whether to build or submit plans.
So he was okay with what he saw, what had been done?
Yes.
And does he have, I'm assuming he has all that documented, so,
I'll take a look, but I talked to him this morning, so it sounded like that had been done.
okay, yeah, if you could follow up with that, that would be great. So, do we need to vote on anything here? Or are we just waiting for the permit to be signed? I guess Bill's
So
gonna, no,
my understanding, talking with Bill, there's another part of the development that may be, instead of single family houses, maybe like a shared system or some kind of common housing. And that, I guess, if and when they submit plans for that, the idea was they would need these sleeves to run force mains in. And so they want to get them in before they pave. So it doesn't sound like there's any action needed until plans are submitted for another phase of a development.
I see. Okay, perfect. So we're okay with this one. All right. So I'm gonna move on to, now that all of our discussion items have been addressed, I'm gonna move on to the additional business that the chair did not reasonably anticipate being discussed. And I do have an item here where we have been tasked, where we get tasked yearly by the Office of the Select Board to review our licenses within the town and ensure that there are no code violations or problems with the establishment where any food establishments or anything that would be of concern that we would not want to renew their license again. So It's a fairly extensive list. Sam, have you had time to go through the list and see if we have any issues? Because I know that this is how we've found issues historically.
I have not reviewed the list as of yet, no.
So I think this is due by November 13th.
I believe so, yes, that's what Kathy's email said.
So do we need to have another meeting in order to provide a response on this? Another public Board of Health meeting to, or
I'm not entirely sure. We did not have a public meeting when we did it last year. Bill went through the list, gave us his comments. Jeff went through the list, gave us his comments. That's what we submitted.
No, and I would imagine some of them are food service businesses. So we're currently in the food service renewal process right now. So I can certainly review those and make sure those establishments are been relicensed. Often we get requests from select boards about common victular licenses and the appropriateness of whether they. So typically, what we're asked to do is find out if they have, or ensure they have active food permits. So we can do that part for you.
I can pass the list along to you, Jim.
thank you so much, Sam. Thank you, Jim.
Yep.
Wonderful. Does any other board member here have any other additional business that they would like to add?
Yeah, you have to talk about the FEP2 purchase request.
Oh, thank you, Sam. We have the EAT requests from Region 2 FEP have come in. And we have some Sam, do you want to talk about it specifically since you're spearheading this? Because I don't want to try to paraphrase your mission.
Yeah, I just want to find the email to be able to provide the list.
So every year Region 2 FEP provides funding for EAT requests that are within a certain criteria that they provide funding for to the board for the local boards of health. And I think there's some medical preparation kits, emergency
Yep.
kits that you're trying to put together, Sam.
Yeah, so the HHS department is looking to build safety kits for the community. So that way, if there is an emergency and they're displaced from their home or weather related, any type of emergency, they would be able to use this kit in that situation. The kit would include things like a bottle of water, food, can opener, a medication list. We would give them the paper to do the list. We clearly can't provide their medications. Any first aid, a flashlight, radio, clothes. So we have about 10 things on the list, and we were looking from FEP to see if we could get flashlights, first aid kits, small ones, potential medication containers and or can openers. So that way we then could provide this to the community.
Okay. I think that sounds reasonable. Sheila, do you have any questions or concerns about the request by HHS?
Nope.
So,
I guess I'm sorry, I do have one question.
Yeah.
So when you say the safety kits would be basically on hold for residents, how do they get distributed?
So we're looking at when we would do that. We're immediately thinking Community Safety Day, which we host in June. So it would be a first come, first served basis for residents to take one kit per household. Or if we were to do something earlier, it would most likely be where they would just come into the community center to pick up said kit.
Thank you.
So I'm assuming we need a vote on this. So Sheila, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. So just make sure that I'm wording the motion correctly. So I guess I'd like to make a motion that we purchase items that the HHS department has provided to build their safety kits with FEP2 EAT request. Hold on a second. I'm just actually trying to find the email because I do recall that there was an email regarding the EAT request.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're just submitting the request to FEP. They are the ones that approve if they're going to purchase the items and send them to us or not.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So do I need to redo that that motion or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So basically the motion is allowing we're still allowing the HHS department, well, we need to make the request of FEP, right, of the funds. So let's so I'm making a motion to request the funds from FEP for these safety kits for HHS.
I think it's just to request the items because they actually purchase them.
I'm sorry, Sam, one more time.
I think it's to request the items because FEP actually purchases the items and sends them to us. So the motion would be to request Board of Health to submit the, I guess, paperwork to request these items.
Okay. So the request is that we as the Board of Health make the request of FEP to again, like to purchase the items for HHS. Thank you.
I second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sheila Millett?
Aye.
Melinda Apgar, aye. One other thing I wanted to put out for the EAT request consideration was, I don't know if anybody's heard of the Vasco V4 translator. Do we have anything like that, Sam? I'm actually glad that Kate's here because she may have heard of these. They use them at EDS and emergency shelter sites or public health emergencies for a lot of times for their police and fire departments. STEP can't support other departments, but they are used sometimes in those atmospheres where they help with the translation of different languages. And it is something that is FEP approved. If we thought that that would be something that would help us communicate better during our inspections. Jim, have you heard of these?
So we purchased this year a couple of things. They're called Pocket Talks, the device, and it sounds very much what you're talking about. So that our nurses can do translations when they're doing communicable disease reporting. I suppose we could use them as well during inspection. So we've purchased a couple for the agency to be able to have they're handheld. I guess you talk into it and hand it back, and they talk into it, and so you can communicate back and forth that way.
It's something that at the last Region 2 FEP person-to-person meeting I was in was well received across boards, and we're finding a lot of use from it. So I wanted to throw that out there and see if it was something that we would like to put in a request for Region 2 FEP to have one here and trial it and see if it's something that we get good use out of. It's had a lot of good reviews from other towns. Does that sound like something maybe that, Sheila?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It sounds very interesting. Again, if this is something you're asking if we need here in Lancaster versus the Neshoba Associated boards already have
Yeah, no,
a
I think, I mean, this
translator.
could help. This could be a useful tool that we could use to help with our inspections, write reports, things like that, that would,
Mhm.
I don't even know all of the things that it can help us with. I think it's just something that we have a lot of multilingual people in the town that we are dealing with sometimes, and it's not always easy communicating, and it may be a very useful tool. So I'd like to make a motion to request Region 2 FEP to consider Vasco for V4 translator or two um, for the EAT request for them to purchase the Vasco 4 translators for the Lancaster Board of Health. Does that make sense?
I will second it for discussion. So I guess my concerns is that it's possible that through Health and Human Services or maybe even the Public Safety Commissioner, we may have something like that on board that's more for multi-board use versus specific to the Board of Health. I don't know if Kate might be able to speak to that.
I mean, Health and Human Services has a variety of grants that they get. Generally speaking, we use it for programming or larger scale events. It certainly is something that could be proposed to Kelly as the director and the person who budgets. I'm not sure that would be seen as far as the state for the formula grant. I don't think that would be seen as that because it has to impact an X amount of people, et cetera, and it has to be
Sure.
guaranteed for use exclusively by over 65. So
I guess my question really is that, do we have something like that in Lancaster? Does police or fire, have any translators
no,
that?
I mean, the police department has a gentleman that speaks pretty fluent Portuguese and Spanish, so we've utilized him sometimes for that. Other than that, we have a Google Translator kind of thing that comes on our cell phones.
Mhm.
But I haven't personally been faced with too many needs for that, other than when we do, tax time and permitting. But even that, it's pretty limited.
Do you have anything else, Melinda, regarding that? Because again, I'm just thinking of more like the multi-usefulness of it amongst the
We
town.
can't use it across departments. That's not
Yeah.
what Region 2 FEP is approving the funding for. It would be approved for, Region 2 FEP would purchase this for the Board of Health.
Mhm.
If other departments found it to be a useful tool, they could go out and purchase their own, but not with Region 2 FEP funds.
Okay.
Melinda, would you think to have it in like the Health and Human Services office, since you guys are kind of tied together, so that you could use it
I
in
would.
that office?
I
Yeah.
absolutely would. I
Okay.
think that would make the most sense. I don't feel like, it can't go to fire. It can't go to police,
Yep.
it needs to stay. And then if they want to benchmark off of it and it's something that they think is a useful tool, then absolutely they can go purchase them. And we could go back to FEP and purchase more for the Health and Human Services of the Board of Health Department, but we wouldn't be able to do that for fire or police. Does that make sense?
I was thinking that if somebody came into the office requesting some assistance, having it in the office so you could communicate might be a reasonable thing. It's nice when you get this
Yep.
equipment to actually have a regular use for it, as opposed to something you put in a closet someplace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think that sounds reasonable. I especially if it can be used, like I said, I can see Health and Human Services also having maybe some necessity.
Do you know what the cost of one of these units is?
I do not. It's called the Vasco VASCO V4 translator. It's, if you go, I have a website. It's just vasco-translator.com.
Okay.
They're around $389.
Yeah, I think we paid about $600 for two of the Pocket Talk devices.
So in this day and age, not very expensive. You know, like when it comes down, I mean, I don't, seems like everything's like thousands of dollars these days. But so I'm gonna make the motion again because I'm not sure for the record how that actually went before. So
So because she seconded it, you have to make a new motion.
okay. So I would like to make a motion for Region 2 FEP to make an EAT request to Region 2 FEP for 1 to 2 Vasco V4 translators.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, Sheila Millette,
Aye.
Melinda Apgar, aye. I'm going to ask if there are any other agenda items from the board.
One more thing, Melinda, so you're gonna complete the paperwork process to submit both of those items for FRIP request.
Yes, I will, Sam. If you can send to me exactly what you want.
Yeah, it's in the email that you received from me
Just
yesterday.
anything. I mean, if I just, is there a specific, is the specific item in the email? I just saw a
Yep, it
list
says at the bottom what we would request from FEP in the email.
the list. But do
But
you have,
in the bottom of the list, there is,
Yeah.
it's specifically calling out 4 things from FEP.
okay, perfect. All right, thank you so much. I will handle that. And I'm gonna send the license list, or you're gonna send the license list to Jim. And we need to have that information back to the board by 11/13.
I mean, we have to have it into Kathy Rocco by 11/13, so it would need to be a little sooner than that if there's gonna be any sort of discussion around it.
Okay, perfect. So then if there's nothing further from the board, Elias, if you would like to address the board with your concern.
Okay. Can I share my screen to show you the pictures while I'm talking?
Samantha?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. All right, sharing. Let me know that you guys can see it.
I can see it.
So the issue is at 70 McGovern Boulevard. This is the FC Stars soccer complex.
What's
had-
the address?
70 McGovern Boulevard.
Okay.
It's right across from Kimball Farms. It's the access road in between that Dunkin' Donuts and the Mobil on the corner.
Okay.
I have sent all these things to Bill over the past month. I haven't heard back from him. So I just want to show you the pictures that I've taken from the last month. And this is with respect to the dirt that's constantly in the air. So I've tried to zoom in, zoom out, specifically the lights, highlight the dirt. There's a zoom out, we'll zoom in. You can see the clouds. You can see the dust hanging near the ground. There's a zoom in on that light. Here's driving away from the facility. This one is cool because the shipping container partially blocked that light. You can see it's very opaque. There's tons of dust in the air. Here's the access road driving in. This is during the day. Here's another picture. These are all different nights from September 24th through October. You can see the dust clouds in the air. We'll just get through all these pictures.
Is this all being kicked up from the road from people driving in and out?
I believe so. There are other things in the area that are on dirt. I don't believe that those other things are the sources of this. And part of the, just anecdotally, when it's been raining out and there's water down, this really isn't an issue. And you can see that driving through the access roads that the dirt isn't kicked up. I mean, the issue to me is this really is a public health issue. You guys are the board. I don't think I need to tell you about the dangers of this kind of particulate matter in the air. But what exacerbates this is the age of all these kids. There's probably 500 kids that practice here on a day-to-day basis, and their age with their lungs being young is much worse for them. And the second exacerbating factor is the rigorousness of exercise. These guys are all training very hard. They're breathing heavy, and you can see from these pictures this dust is at ground level. I mean, they are breathing this in, and statistically speaking, there will be more than one child that has a lifelong adverse reaction because of sucking this particulate matter into their lungs during practice. I mean, when I pointed this out a month ago to Bill, he called me back and said he would look into it. I haven't heard back from it. And, I know you guys are empowered to remove nuisances endangering the public's health, safety, and well-being. And I don't know all the details, but I believe Massachusetts entitles you guys to act quicker when there's an imminent risk to public health or safety. And I'm not sure how this could be considered as anything other than an imminent risk to the health of these children.
Okay, Elias, thank you very much for your presentation. Do you have anything else further to add?
I don't have anything further to add. What is the process for this to be followed up on?
Jim, I'm going to deflect to you on this. It seems that based on the pictures that the dust seems to be significantly at least caused by the traffic coming in. It seems that, paving the road would be an easy solution if that is the ultimate problem, cause of the problem, but I'm not sure what the real course should be here, Jim. So
I can go out and take a look, figure out who owns the road. FC may not own the road. I just don't know who all the property owners
They
are.
do not. I have that available. If I have
Okay.
time to look it up, I can
Yep.
send that to you as well. It's in the GIS reports in the town. It's
Yeah,
owned
no,
by an LLC.
that's a pretty straightforward thing to. So I can certainly address that with them. Is it just at nighttime when they're? One of those pictures look more daytime.
My kids practice at various times. So I'm not usually there for the 4:30 earlier practice. My wife
Okay.
does that. Usually I'm there for later. You can obviously see the effects of this dust much better at night because the lights clearly highlight it. But most likely this is an ongoing thing that happens all day long. Although, of course, when the kids are in school, nobody's practicing there.
Right. So you're saying, I mean, is that when the first practice is? For the board, it's important for us to go out and document the situation.
Yes, and as I told Bill as well, usually, if you go when the sun's going down, 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock, that's prime time to observe this.
Okay.
And, I sent these pictures as requested to Bill at real time from the fields last month. And part of me being a little bit, unsettled today is after me doing my due diligence for Bill, sending him the times, the place, the location over a month, I haven't heard back, and it seems like something should have been done already. We started this process a month ago. Bill said he had called the owner and talked to them. Obviously, nothing happens, but this is, from my perspective, a clear danger to hundreds of children, and we shouldn't have to wait months and months and months more to even start this process. I started this process a month ago. Why are these kids not being protected already?
I'll go down and take a look, and I'll follow up with the property owner to see who's responsible for maintaining the road.
Okay. Would it be beneficial for me to add you to the emails to continue to send all of this documentation?
It would.
Or should I look your email up
I can
off
give
of
it
the
to you
site?
now. I
Please,
can give it
yes.
to you now if you'd like. It's
I'm
ready.
yes.
It's JGARREFFI at neshoba.org.
All right. JGARREFFI@nashoba.org. Got it.
Yep.
Elias, if you can also include the Lancaster Board of Health on these emails, that would be great.
Okay.
And our email is boh@lancasterma.gov.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Elias. And is there anything further?
No, that is all.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing your concern to the Board of Health. We appreciate you, and we appreciate that you've informed us of this. And Jim will go out and inspect, and he'll get back to us, and we'll be able to proceed with the next steps.
Thank you.
Kendra?
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No question?
I have a
Well,
thought, but I think I have a thought, but I think it's best left to the building inspector who issued a cease and desist up at that location for some stuff. So I'll speak to Mike Silva.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to bring the meeting to a close.
No, you
and-
need to vote on meeting minutes from last
Oh,
meeting,
meeting
please.
minutes, thank you, sorry. Trial
Melinda,
by
do you mind
fire.
if, do you mind if I head out? I gotta catch up with another place.
Jim, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking on the responsibilities discussed in this meeting. And if you don't have anything else for us, you have a great day.
You too. Reach out if you need anything.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye. Okay, so we have to do the approval of the meeting minutes from the September 26th, 2024 meeting. Were there any comments or questions or concerns? Sam, did you receive anything back? Okay. So if there are no comments, questions, or concerns, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the September 26th, 2024 meeting. Sheila?
I'll second that.
My God, I just lost my train of thought.
All in favor.
All in favor, thank you. Sheila Millette,
Aye.
Melinda Apgar, aye. And with nothing else,
And one more thing, the date for our next meeting.
oh, the day for the next meeting, okay. So we already, we have that tentatively scheduled for November 21st. And if everybody has,
It's a week early because otherwise it would be on Thanksgiving Day.
that's fine. I have nothing. I'm available. Are you available, Sheila?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Then we will set the next meeting for Thursday, November 21st at 9:30 a.m. I'll make a motion to set the next meeting at 9:30 a.m. on November 21st. No, I don't need to do that. Okay.
No, you don't need a motion for that.
Okay, perfect. So the next meeting has been scheduled, and I hope you all have a great day.